Hello, everybody.
Hey, challengers.
Welcome to our week 1 Q&A
And reflection.
So we are going to actually be jumping on and doing these every single week. And the point of these Q&As is really to jump on to go over our topic area of the week, unpack it a little bit further, give you guys even more depth and information, but also to, I guess, troubleshoot some things that are coming up in your weekly check-ins as well.
Yeah, and also just to kind of like consolidate what you've found during the week and how you can continue that into the next week and so on.
Yeah, so it's going to be quite dynamic. So please, if you've got questions and if you're joining us live, feel free to put them over in the chat box and we'll keep an eye on that chat box. But if you're watching it back and you've got questions or things that don't quite make sense that you want us to recap over, make sure you let us know. But again, we are here to be showing up, going over some stuff that we think is really, really beneficial, because sometimes when you're doing these challenges, sometimes you can get caught up in your own head thinking that you're the only one experiencing challenge or difficulty, when in reality it's a shared feeling, and sometimes it's nice knowing that you're not alone in how you feel. And we've run so many challenges here at 23W, we can almost preempt the issues that are going to be coming up before they happen, which is why we want to jump on and do a Q&A so that you guys know that it's like, just because you have a little bit of adversity doesn't mean that's a sign or a time for you to drop the ball and go, oh, it's all too hard, this is too much for me, I'm checking out. That's definitely not what we want.
Yeah, we want to take it day by day and not get into that all or nothing mentality of like, if you miss one thing, you drop everything. We want to kind of figure out how you can plan for those kind of barriers that you are facing.
Love it.
Yeah.
So maybe let's start off with maybe just like a general reflection of how you feel like your challenges have started.
Yeah.
And anything that you think sort of come up and things for us to unpack, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. So obviously we're about halfway through the first week. I had nearly all of my team check in with me yesterday through the app. And the general consensus was that they felt so much more prepared this week because they took that little bit of time on the weekend to plan ahead, whether that was bulk prep some meals, whether that was booking in their sessions ahead. And we're just kind of reaffirming how much having a plan and putting a little bit of effort in at the start of the week can take the pressure off during the week. So I think overall everyone's kind of kicked off with a bit of a bang, and a few light bulbs have switched off in terms of like, oh my God, this has really helped me. Yeah. So it was a really positive check-in experience for everyone this week.
Yeah, cool.
Which was good.
Yeah, pretty much the same over on Team Ange as well. One thing that I just want to quickly go over, if you're going, what is a check-in? If you maybe didn't check in, it's literally just a two-way message between you and your captain. So every Wednesday you will get a prompt to say, how is your week going? And there might be some questions along the way. You've just got to respond to that. That is literally what your check-in looks like. There are some other things that your coach does when they are reading through your comments. They probably jump into your dashboard. They'll see what you've got connected. They'll check in to see how you're tracking your habits and whether or not you're actually ticking those off. They'll see if you've taken progress photos. They'll see basically how you're utilizing and using the app. So we do spend a little bit of time jumping into your profile when we read through your message, just to see kind of how you are, what your week actually looks like, and that's why we love this app, as well as obviously responding back to your message as well. Please try and get that check-in done before 12 o'clock on Wednesday, because it gives the coaches a deadline to go, okay, I'm going to go in and check everyone's, rather than doing it here, there and everywhere, which can then be a little bit more time consuming. The other thing that came up for me is that I've got quite a few new girls in my group, and some of them are feeling pretty sore, and that is so normal. You're never going to be as sore as what you are in your first week getting back into training, but unfortunately it is a little bit of a rite of passage, because you've gone from not doing certain things to then adding it in, and your body as a response, it is feeling inflammation it's broken down some of that muscle tissue, and then during the repair process it rebuilds to allow you to get stronger. So unfortunately, while we don't want you to be getting sore like this every single week, and you won't be, in your first week it is pretty normal, which is why, you know, when you first come in we say, look, really take it easy. Don't be lifting the weights, leave your ego at the door. But even if you've implemented some of those things, you might still be struggling to sit down on the toilet or move. So there's a few things that we can suggest if that is you. First of all, be kind on yourself. If you've set yourself a goal to come in and do 4 sessions a week, and you just go, I don't think I'm going to be able to make that, then that's okay. Spend more time and effort into getting good quality sleep, getting your meals prepared, some various other forms of recovery, like going for a walk, just looking after yourself. It's only week 1, so don't be beating yourself up if you don't quite make the number of sessions that you want to. Go on.
Soreness is a sign that you're doing something new and you're actually switching on the muscles that you're not typically using as well. So it's a good sign that you are feeling it because you've switched everything on, you're getting into training, and as Ange said, as you continue, your body's going to adapt to that. You certainly won't be that sore ongoing. But my biggest advice is if you're feeling stiff, get moving, like do some stretching, do some foam rolling, go for a walk, get your blood pumping, and that will help with your muscle recovery. Because if you're staying still or sitting down, you'll notice that as soon as you get back up again, that's when you feel even sorer. So try and move around as much as you can so that you can promote that muscle recovery.
Yeah, really good tip. And look, the other thing is, like, we are a really small team here at the studio. We really pride ourselves on being able to individualize the workouts for you. So if you're coming in and you're like, there is no way I'm going to be able to do more legs today, we can easily change your program out and
Absolutely.
we can make it fit your needs. So never feel scared to request a little substitute out, and we'll obviously be super mindful of it as well. So there's really, at this point in time, there's no need to fret or panic to be like, I'm not going to be able to keep up this pace or whatever else. It's really quite, unfortunately.
Just got to get through the hard yards on that first week or so. And keep your movement up.
So let's jump into this week's topic area, which was all about finding your meal prep style. Now, the reason why we started with this as number 1 is that I think a lot of people, when they go, I'm going to go on a diet, or I'm trying to seek changes in body composition, the way that they've previously done it, it's been either very prescriptive, where it's like, you know, removing whole food groups, changing your diet completely, huge overhauls, meal plans given to you by trainers, grocery lists. And that's all, you know, it's all well and good, but unfortunately we cannot stick to those things.
It's a lot.
It's too much. And like, that's okay if you were in a little bubble and you had nothing else going on in your life, but we are real life amazing women that have got busy, full lives, careers and everything else, kids. We need to find a system that actually suits our lifestyle, that suits our culture, that suits the way we socialize around foods, the way that we engage with people. So it's really important that you spend time bringing awareness to the way you're planning out the foods you're eating. And it's the awareness that's going to create change over a long period of time. So it doesn't matter if you shouldn't be striving to write out the most perfect meal prep plan. And we can smell bullshit. If we see someone's meal plan and it's written out looking like something you've pulled off Pinterest or something that, you know, the next 1,200 calorie diet, we know you're not going to be able to stick to it because no one can. And that's the issue, is that you need to find something that works with what you're currently doing, but just aiming to be a little bit better over time. And it's with time you start to build and stack habits that all of a sudden in 6 months, a year down the track, you really start to shift a lot of your habits around food. So it's the long game that we're playing here. So it's aiming just to be a little bit better. So I guess my big tip for anyone that sat there with their meal plan and going, I don't know what to write, I need inspiration, start by writing out what you are currently eating and what you're currently doing, and then looking at it and going, where do I think are there areas for me to improve? Or call yourself out on your own bullshit, because sometimes we write out these meal plans, and I'm guilty of it too, and I'll still throw in the odd chocolate chip cookie along the way. You know what I mean? So it's important that you start with a plan, because with a plan, after you do the plan, you can then analyze it to say, is this what I can do? Is this what I'm currently doing? And can I execute on it?
Yeah. And also I think like a lot of the time we try and fully overhaul our diet or our nutrition or our lifestyle right in the beginning. And that is when it gets overwhelming. Like you're trying to meal prep or batch cook when you just don't have that time on the weekends, or you're trying to plan out your meals throughout the week, but you know things change because you have kids' activities and things like that. And so I think the most important takeaway is that small changes and small improvements are what's going to lead to those big changes and those big lifestyle shifts where you're able to get sustainable results and you're able to maintain what you're actually doing and build those habits rather than taking on too much.
So true. And this week 1 habit is something we want you to keep up throughout the 8 weeks of the challenge. And beyond. Yeah, absolutely. And beyond. But it's important that you, every week, you spend some time thinking about how you're going to fuel your body and when you're going to be planning out actually making those meals. It is so crucial to you actually achieving success in being able to do that. So I guess like let's unpack this even further. Like some of the things that I guess the trouble points or the pain points that we might see, or like just some like very quick small habit changes that you might make going into week 2 when you're looking at your meal plan, is having a look over it, and can you identify, are you having maybe 3 serves of protein every day, in each meal? So are you including protein in every meal? That's something that you could be looking at to be quick review. What have I planned out? Is there a protein feed at every meal? What would be some of the ones that you might look for? It's like a very simple quick win that you might look to review your nutrition plan.
I would look at variety, because me and my partner get over the same foods a lot of the time, to make sure that you're interested as well. And because like sometimes if we try and have like the same meal a couple of times a week, we'll get to that night and be like, I don't feel like that, and we don't have stuff for anything else, and that's when we go for like the fast food kind of foods. And so making sure that I have variety and that we're trying new recipes and trying new things is really important.
Yeah, I love that. That's a good one. Another one that you might look at is how is your energy? Like how did that food actually make you feel? Did you feel like you could actually stick to the plan that you wrote yourself, or were you also adding in and topping up with some additional food? Was it keeping you satiated?
Yeah, that's a big one.
Because you need to be able to stick to it long term to get results.
Yeah.
Other pain points that you might experience is that you've got a really busy social life, and that to get results, you should still be able to go out and enjoy meals out. There will come a tipping point that if you're going out too frequently, it's going to be really hard to manage. But make sure you put those nights out in your calendar as being like night out with the girls, pizza, whatever. And if you know that it's coming up, you are already going to be thinking about ways that you can manage that ahead of time. So it could be about making sure you're not going ravenously hungry, so that you enjoy the delicious food that's at the restaurant without necessarily overeating.
Yeah,
Or
100%.
maybe looking at the menu ahead of time, or maybe suggesting to your girlfriends, hey, I am on a challenge. Can we choose to go somewhere different this week, or something along those lines? But again, it all starts with awareness building. And if you haven't got it written down, it's actually really hard to bring your conscious awareness to what you're really doing.
And that's when we start to build like negative connotations with eating out and with having those kind of foods that we enjoy. And then that negative connotation is what leads to the overeating as well, because we're not being mindful about actually still including the things that we love in our week to week. And I think that's really important, particularly to improve your own relationship with food as well.
Yes. God, that is such a good point. Enjoyment is everything.
Food used to be just a source of fuel and survival for humans, but it's such a big part of our like society and our culture. Almost all of our social events are around food and sometimes drinks as well. So I think it's really important not to limit the things that you genuinely enjoy and make sure that you account for it as well.
And that, when you really start to unpack your own habits around food, something that, I've worked on quite a lot is including some chocolate in at night. It's not going to bring me undone. Like it really isn't. And if I have a little bit when I feel like it, there is no overeating anymore. It's a case of including it in part of a healthy, balanced diet, and I'm not letting it have control over me.
Absolutely.
In this week's newsletter, we actually go into more depth about this, and I found this amazing image that really does sum up everything we're talking about here in terms of like a Venn diagram of overlapping circles. To find your diet sweet spot, it should be enjoyment, it should be sustainability, and then the other one, God, I cannot remember it. It is, it's a good thing I've got it on my phone. Oh, baby brain over here. Is healthy. So when all of those circles intersect, you can get amazing results long term. Yeah. And does it take a while to get to that point?
Absolutely. Yes. Like we have to kind of totally reframe our mindset around that as well.
Yeah. And you're going to stumble and you're going to trip and you're going to, you're going to have times where you're like, oh my God, I said that I was only going to have a handful of biscuits and I ate the whole pack. That happens. It happens with everyone. So, know that is a real thing.
Yeah. And you want to start to practice kindness with yourself as well. Like, as we said earlier, one instance like that does not undo everything that you are trying to achieve. It's just a little hiccup, and we're learning how to create a lifestyle that works for you, and that includes all of the things you enjoy, as well as puts your health first.
Yeah. So planned, not perfect, is what we're aiming for.
100%.
But I guess the other thing that I wanted to touch on is that in week one, we generally find that most of you girls are like off onto a flying start. You've done your meal prep. You're coming for a few sessions. Like things are going well.
You're motivated.
Week one. Disciplined. You're like, I did the thing. I'm doing the hard stuff. Like I'm charging.
Yeah.
Now, we want to make it really clear that's not going to be the case every single week. And we want you to stay in this challenge even when you face barriers and when you face challenges and when things pop up, because they will pop up. It's not a case of if, it's a case of when.
Yeah.
And so doing a little bit of work to get on the front foot of that can be really, really helpful. And again, going back to awareness, we want to sort of finish off today's Q&A, getting you girls to bring awareness to the things, the pain points, or the things that might pop up for you. So think about your own life and your own circumstances and go, okay, in a perfect week, I'm doing these things, I'm taking this action, but I know sometimes it might not be a perfect week because of X. Therefore, I will. So I want you to brainstorm a list of things that could potentially pop up in your week that will stop you from executing the plan that you've set for yourself over the challenge. And a good way to do this is get a piece of paper, fold it in half, and write on one side, if this happens. And then I want you to make a list of all the things that could potentially pop up. So for me, every month I spend a weekend down at my parents' place. It's out of Melbourne. It usually means I get back to Melbourne quite late. I'm usually pretty tired. I don't have a chance to meal prep. I know that's going to happen. And I know that when I don't put a plan in place around that, my week usually gets off to a pretty shaky start in that I haven't really had enough time to get myself organized in terms of my meals, my training, etc. So if this happens, for me, going back to my parents' place for the weekend. And then on the other side, I write, I will. So how am I going to manage that? So I always make sure that I've got a meal that's frozen in the freezer that I can pull out if I need to when I'm coming back home. And that usually is enough to give me a little bit more headspace, that I don't feel like my week is starting off in an absolute shit show and then it continues to spiral from there. I'm like, right, I've got this meal that gives me a bit of time, then I can kind of catch up and then I'm back on my feet.
Absolutely.
Is there anything that comes up for you that you go, you know what, that's something like, if this happens?
Mm-hmm. So this regularly happens. I'm not the best at prepping my lunches, despite always setting the intention, or we have particular meals that we don't make extra of to have for lunch.
And it's tricky because you're vegan and gluten-free, and Matt is none of those things.
Yeah, exactly. So sometimes tricky. We're already cooking 2 meals but the same meal, and so it's really hard to kind of, build up on that. But if that happens, then instead of going up to one of the cafes and getting like maybe a carb heavy lunch or something like that, I'll head to the supermarket instead and I'll go and get one of those plant-based like freezer meals, or a soup and some rice to have with that have really good ingredients and good macros. One, it's more cost effective, so it's a lot better. But 2, I know that I'm keeping my nutrients up, and I'm also sticking within whatever my goals are at the time, whether that's staying in a deficit or maintenance or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think, it definitely took a little bit to build that practice, and it does take willpower not to go down the chip aisle or anything, but I'm going to the freezer, I'm getting it, and then I'm gone.
I love it. So good. Which I think is just a good point in general, is have your backup meals. Have your meal that you're like, when shit goes down, I know I could whip this up in 15 minutes.
Absolutely.
So like for me, my whip up meal, which I generally eat actually every week, is like a Mexican beef with like capsicum, corn, brown rice, because it's like easy microwaved, maybe a bit of salsa if I'm feeling a little bit excited, little bit of cheese, and it's so quick and easy. Some beans, it's just like, it's the easiest meal prep, and I love it. It tastes good. It reheats well. I'm often flying.
I have a couple meals like that as well, like really like 5 less than 10-minute meals. Like that could be, one of them is tofu scramble. You literally just crumble up your tofu in the pan, add whatever flavors you want, chuck some veggies in, and then I have it with rice or something like that. Or I'll have a ready-made like protein sauce, like falafel balls or some kind of mock meat or something like that, and a packaged salad, so that on the days that I'm, I realize I don't have anything prepared, or I haven't been able to stick to the plan, and it won't take that much effort, energy, or time, still know you're getting a really well-rounded meal.
Yeah. So hopefully we've started getting the thinking juices flowing. Definitely do this activity. Because the more you can get on the front foot, the better. But as we go through week to week, hopefully you've had a look through the journal. Next week, we're going to be really focusing in on macros. So Dee mentioned the word macro before, and you might go, I don't even know what a macro is. It's basically a carb, a protein, and a fat. And if you don't know what foods have them in there, that's okay. We're going to be spending a bit of time next week talking about what a balanced meal looks like and why achieving a balanced meal is, in terms of a sustainability point of view, is a really good thing to be able to be eating.
Mm-hmm.
The other resource that you may or may not have opened up is that meal prep handbook, and that sort of sits as its own little product there, but it includes so many hot tips, like what Dee just mentioned there, in terms of like finding ready-made meals, little hacks.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of ways that you can make life easy for yourself nowadays.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think that's the key, is you've got to make meal prep and planning so easy that it's just too easy not to do.
Yeah.
Because the flip side of that is not doing it, and that actually ends up making your life a lot harder.
Yeah.
And you're creating problems for yourself.
And just remember, like, this entire challenge is a learning curve as well. Like, you're learning about what's going to actually work for you in your lifestyle and how you're going to be able to pivot and adjust. You're also absorbing all of this information about nutrition. So it will take some time to get used to it and to put these things into practice. But the main message is to be kind to yourself and have a plan and have a backup plan to that plan if things pop up.
Love it.
Love it.
Love it. Well, I think that's a wrap.
Yeah, that's a wrap.
Team, if you're watching this back, we'd love to know what you thought. If you've got any questions, if you watched it, let us know. But I think that's it from us. Keep coming in, training hard, chatting to your coaches, all of us. We're all here to help you out. And catch you on the flip side.
Catch you on the flip side. Bye.